Hi,
I'm
everybody.
the one waving in green.
Yeah, great guy.
Hello.
Hi.
Just missing Gary, but up to you if you want to wait 2 minutes or.
We'll wait.
Okay.
We'll be efficient. How's everybody's summer going?
Now that it's here, it's nice. Yeah.
It's hot, but we're not in Arizona.
That's right, and we got wonderful lakes around us. So
Yes, exactly.
With water in them this year.
it's always beneficial.
I couldn't imagine 110 plus for 2 straight weeks. Yikes.
Yeah, it just never cools down at night.
I know.
No thanks.
Yeah,
Just living in an oven.
yeah. I heard Death Valley was like 130.
Yeah, 1:30.
Oh.
And people are so.
95 was the top this weekend.
I've been there.
Good sitting there.
Right. And today at 82 actually felt cool.
It did, right?
Right?
It felt really nice.
It was 100.
That's hot, because it's humid hot there too, isn't it? It's humid hot. Yeah,
Where is this?
Awesome.
yeah.
Oh.
And then Liz, for the section when we're talking about the terms, I have it pulled up there so you'll be able to see the terms
Oh, perfect.
once we get to that section.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Friends in New Orleans.
Okay.
Less
Less than a minute.
75 to 90% humidity. They're in the 3 digits. That's why I left.
There's something out there.
Scary.
How are you, Dustin?
Good, how are you?
Good. Yeah, you're looking all tan too.
I've only been out in the sun a lot.
Yeah, there you go. Working or,
A little both,
yeah, okay. Good.
travel, baseball, and work.
Oh, nice. Yeah, my sons used to do travel baseball. Okay, it's 6 o'clock. We shall begin. This is the July meeting of the Cannabis Advisory Panel. Welcome, everybody. We will do a round of introductions, though before we begin, we have 2 new members on our panel. Joining us online is Matt Hurd. Matt is the Chief Operating Officer of Cannabis Nation Companies, and they have 5 locations around Oregon, including 1 in Sun River. So that is his participation to fulfill the role of cannabis retailer. He's been in the industry since 2015, starting as an entry-level individual with Cannabis Nation. In several months, he started managing the dispensary in Beaverton. And in 2016, he assisted with licensing, staffing, stocking, opening a 3rd location, overseeing the transition from medical, which is what it was when Cannabis Nation began, to recreational. And in 2017, he was promoted to Director of Operations, and he has since implemented every
Sorry.
Oh, wow. Sorry. He's implemented every policy and protocol that governs the company, including state and local compliance, banking, security, inventory, HR, and payroll. And he oversees the admin and management team of 90 plus employees. So you just don't have much to do you?
Right.
They've opened 2 additional stores in 2018, including the one in Sun River, and their cultivation canopy expanded from, I hope I said that right, cultivation canopy, I added that word, canopy, increased from 10,000 square feet to 30,000 square feet, so it's a pretty big operation. In 2020, he was promoted to the Chief Operating Officer of the companies, and he has held that position to today. Welcome, Matt. So glad to have you. Would you like to say any other remarks?
No, just thank you for that introduction, and I'm happy to be here. I hope that I can contribute.
Well, in my conversation with you earlier, I really encourage you to raise your hand to contribute to the conversation. It's always difficult when you're on a Zoom call and everybody else is in the room because we tend to monopolize the conversation, but raise your hand and Jen will keep me honest and she'll let me know that your hand is raised. So I encourage you to do that. Our other new member is Jeremy Giffen. Jeremy is the Deschutes Basin Water Master. Thank you for that role. He grew up in the small town of Azalea in Southern Oregon. He's got a bachelor's degree in geography from Southern Oregon State College. He has worked as a meteorologist in the early 90s, so can I call you if my Wonderground app is not working? And that was in Medford, Oregon. He spent the last 28 years working for the Oregon Water Resources Department, and the last 25 of those years with the Deschutes Basin Water Master, as the Deschutes Basin Water Master. So thank you very much. Welcome to the team, to the panel. Would you like to say anything?
I think you covered it.
Okay, well,
you.
again, we do encourage an inclusive kind of environment, so if you have any comments, please do share them, or
Will do.
questions or whatever. So with that, let's start at this end of the table with introductions of your name and your role and anything else you'd like to tell us.
Wonderful, good evening. Anthony Ramos, I'm a detective with the Deschutes County Sheriff's Office, currently assigned to Deschutes County Legal Marijuana Enforcement with Mr. Miller.
Dustin Miller, Deschutes County Sheriff's Office, Deschutes County Legal Marijuana Market Enforcement Team, and board member.
Hunter Neubauer, co-founder of Orgrown. We're a vertically integrated cannabis company, so we have production, processing, wholesale, and retail. Happy.
Water regulator, and I went on some illegal stings last year, and so a local experience in it.
Mary Fleischman, public at large.
Dr. Andrew Austin, board member.
I'm Liz Latachinsky, you won't forget how to say that anymore. And I'm the chair currently, but I think my term is coming to an end as chair. I'm happy to pass the ropes on to somebody else, so.
Jerry Braceland, board member, serial entrepreneur. I have the economic development seat. I'm with Tokyo Starfish, Bend Outdoor Works, GB2, two other companies. And I don't know how we're gonna follow up after you. So I'll have to extend it for another year.
I am Ken Vanderkamp. I'm a detective sergeant with Central Oregon Drug Enforcement and the illicit marijuana team, and I currently work for the sheriff's office.
I'm Dan Smith. I'm the lead code enforcement specialist for Deschutes County Community Development.
I'm Nicole Makeda, project coordinator for nonprofit organization Clear Alliance, and thank you for having us today.
Thanks for being here.
I'm also from Clear Alliance. I'm Darla Ingstrom, and I'm the graphic design project manager.
Oh, great, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
And Jen.
I'm Jen Patterson, sorry, trying to check the names. I keep the minutes as well. I'm Jen Patterson, strategic initiatives manager for the county. And in this role, I'm the staff support for the Cannabis Advisory Panel from the county.
Okay, our next agenda topic is to approve the minutes. I need a motion from somebody. Mary motions for approval. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I believe minutes have been approved. Thank you. Okay, the next topic, number 3, is presentation of the code compliance summary for the 2023 annual reporting season.
Get this pulled up real quick. Matt, can you see the PowerPoint?
No, I can't.
Good. My eyesight's not great even with my glasses on. Oh,
Sure.
it is. Missed that
there
one,
you go.
though.
Okay, I can see it now.
Okay. And I really can't see far enough to make it, presentation. Can someone talk me through that?
Slideshow, hit slideshow, and then
Go over, keep at the top, over one, another,
2 more,
Two more.
2 more.
1 more,
No, not that
one
one.
more.
That one.
Thank
From
you all.
beginning.
all the way over. 1 more,
One more.
1 more to the
To
left.
the left.
There you go.
Team effort.
I was like, that
Excellent. Apparently I need new glasses.
Well, you're also creating.
Sorry. Well, thankfully for everyone, it's going to be a short PowerPoint. So I just wasn't sure the format, so I figured I'd throw a PowerPoint out there because everybody loves these things. So nonetheless, I appreciate you guys offering me the opportunity to come and speak to you guys about it. I, of course, am not a normal member of the committee, so I'm not sure exactly what questions would be best helped by my information. So I kind of captured a little bit of everything, and of course, I'm available for question for the end. So generally speaking, what I understood is we wanted to try to get some information about the 2022 reporting season, which is basically all of last year's code enforcement related cases as it pertains to marijuana or hemp enforcement. So before we go into the details, let's figure I'd give you guys an overview, both sides here, about just kind of what code enforcement generally is working with for the year of 2022. So for 2022, we were staffed with 4 enforcement specialists, including myself, and basically we receive complaints from the county public and of course other departments within the county, including the sheriff's office and assessor's office and whatnot. So
Are those 4 specialists only for illegal cannabis?
no, ma'am.
That is code enforcement, thank you.
That is all of us. So we do
Okay.
everything, building enforcement, solid waste, waste disposal, building planning, pretty much anything that the county has a code for except for noise and some other specialties that the sheriff's office deals with, we get involved with. So last year for 2022, we investigated 123 violations on 550 properties in the county. And we received complaints for 775 across 507. So just generally that graph on the bottom is meant to represent is that generally code enforcement cases are multi-year or can be multi-year processes depending on what the issues are and what the solutions for those are. So you can see there's 2018, we're pretty much got 100% of those, or I think we do have 100% of those cases closed. And then 2019, the gap starts to widen and continues until 2022. So specifically related for cannabis related cases, we had 16 violations in 2022 across 6 properties in the county. And so 10 of those 16 violations are still active cases from last year.
Can you forward the slide?
Oh, yes, sorry.
Oh, okay, there we go.
All right, got mine forwarded.
Okay.
And so, yeah, so like I said, we have 16 violations that we investigated across 6 properties. 10 of the 16 are still active, so we're still working with property owners to try to resolve all of the issues on the property. And generally the hemp or the marijuana grow, especially the marijuana grows that we received last year, I believe were all essentially illegal marijuana grows that were settled by the sheriff's office as far as removing the marijuana portion of the violations for business use and the kind of the zoning issues. But what's left over typically on both hemp and marijuana grows that either get abandoned suddenly or are vacated suddenly are solid waste issues, which basically is junk on property, leftover row covers that are blowing onto people's properties, the visqueen coverings, sometimes if they get abandoned, just start flying around every which way. Non-approved disposal, typically what will happen on these, especially larger hemp sites and larger marijuana sites, the people that are farming those sites cannot occupy or will not occupy the main dwelling, or there's not enough space. And so you end up having to bring RVs or convert structures into residences that weren't originally residences. So we have a lot of RV occupation, and with that, they don't always install an approved waste disposal system, which creates some problems, especially in South County where the water table is very high. A pretty bad situation. As we were discussing, RV occupation and multiple dwellings are pretty common, where we have to, get those vacated at the same time or get those removed. Along with multiple dwellings, are work without permits. So if somebody's taking a shop or something like that, and they convert it to a residential space for farmers or for the people that are harvesting the product, a lot of the times that work is done without permits because they're installing electrical, plumbing, whatnot without any permits. Specifically with marijuana grows as well, because of the lighting requirements, the plumbing requirements for watering systems and whatnot, there is extensive unpermitted work done in those structures typically. If they're indoor, just to facilitate that. And those are predominantly what we have to chase down for a while. In some cases, the owner of the property is not the one that leased the property that then did whatever work was happening. And in those instances, we generally give the property owner the benefit of the doubt, not knowing that all of this was going on. Unless we know otherwise, and so we'll give them some time to either pull the proper permits, do the things that they need to do to rectify the issue. And so just kind of, yes, ma'am.
So hemp is legal to grow.
Yes.
So why would hemp be on the code violations list? What part of the hemp grow is a violation on code?
Certainly. So it depends on exactly what happens. Typically for hemp, what we found is that the majority of it that's grown outside, it becomes a solid waste problem. The more, probably, there's 2 of them that I can think of off the top of my head for 2022. That one of them was essentially a hemp grow that was just unsuccessful. The plants ended up dying. Either they chose not to harvest it or whatnot. It got transferred to a new leasee. That leasee didn't do anything with that field, and so all those row coverings and whatnot started to disintegrate
Oh,
and start flying around. So we had to have that individual
Okay.
start clearing all those row coverings up. The other one was for a supposed hemp operation. For some reason, the entire group decided to abandon that hemp operation for reasons unknown to me, but it was over several acres. And they had greenhouses and everything installed. So we had, of course, some electrical work that was done without permits, as well as all those coverings for the visqueen covered greenhouses, again, started disintegrating and flying into other people's yards and whatnot. So those are the hemp issues generally, is mostly related to solid
So
waste.
same type of materials on the latter one you mentioned.
Exactly, yeah.
Now hemp does have to have an ag permit, I believe, don't they?
Yeah, for a certain size, from what I understand, that you need
So I think they have to
approval
go
for
through
permit.
an application.
Okay.
Permit,
In order
just
to,
different permit,
right, in order to be able to grow.
I believe, I don't know.
Yeah, I believe that is correct. The county doesn't pursue that aspect of it. We'll certainly let Department of Ag know if we believe that there's an operation going on, but it's not part of county code that it requires it for our purposes.
Right, okay.
And then otherwise, I just have kind of some photos and just talking points for stuff. So this is that solid waste type stuff we're talking about. So the one photo on the right is was a hemp grow supposedly that was abandoned. And so with that, all of that material and whatnot started coming apart and flying around and whatnot. So that was a multi-acre cleanup. And then I believe the person probably collected a lot of that stuff, hid it somewhere in his property, and then we're probably gonna have another case on the same problem. But nonetheless, that's what we're generally chasing around. The photo on the left has some of the same visqueen type materials, but it has more industrial type items as well. For some reason with marijuana grows, especially the illegal ones, they tend to collect these things. Well, you'll have a lot of industrial equipment, probably things that they're thinking they will repurpose for their greenhouse and whatnot, that ends up not working or something and starts accumulating on the property. RV occupation, again, very clear, and all these photos were taken from cases from 2022. So this is one of the RVs that was just set up outside of one of the grow sites. And so, you know,
Nice one.
it is a nice one.
Yeah.
This guy was one of
Yeah.
the yeah.
It wasn't inside.
The auction too.
I don't know. Should.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you guys can tow it, all the better, because that would help me out a little bit. But, yeah, so like I said, these are pretty common. We'll generally.
Are you serious? Is that actually available?
Not that I'm aware, actually, it should be for sale, because they said they're supposed to be clearing this place out, including the RVs, so.
I've got a friend that he doesn't, so I mean.
I'm with you on that one.
That's what I was saying, see at the auction.
This guy redoes trailers too.
Yeah, it might be a fight, but
Yeah.
I'll at least let him know there's interest out there.
Apparently a lot.
Yeah, because this particular property has several RVs on the property. This was just the most decorated one.
Yeah.
But again, like I said, pretty prevalent, though typically after a marijuana or after a marijuana bust happens, usually there's not too much RV occupation occurring directly afterward, which is kind of, so we don't have to worry about the waste issues and whatnot. It's generally just the RVs being switched over and we need to get them either removed or, stored in a way that's not readily available for occupation. And then work without permits. There's a lot of creativity, and I really appreciate some of the ingenuity that folks have when it comes to electrical installations. But a lot of that work is usually not up to code, and it's usually pretty quickly thrown up in different buildings. And so this is the majority of what takes time if a property owner does want to try to rehab something into something that he can use at a later point or advertise to a seller or to a potential buyer or leasee that he's got a functional greenhouse now. He has to go through a lot of steps to make this legitimized and remove a lot of equipment. So that's the majority of what we are dealing with as far as cases and trying to address it on people's properties. That is the end of the PowerPoint. I told you to be short.
That's good. Any questions? Matt? Nope, okay.
I would like to say thank you to County Code on our last one that we just did. Very helpful, sent people to 3 different locations. You guys did a phenomenal job on that.
Yeah, and I really did, yeah, and definitely the last year or two, the synergy between the sheriff's office and code enforcement, it's great when we're able to actually go on site at the same time rather than just utilizing photos from the team that went through initially, because we can identify the issues and try to get other resources that that we may know about. I think last time we had DEQ, at least was called about one of the issues because of the wastewater that was on the property at the time. So it's definitely a good system that we're working to build on, so.
And is that now standard procedure that if, I suppose if code enforcement is available, you would accompany?
Yeah, if the scene is set up for, I know that generally sheriff's office will make sure everything's, safe and ready to be on. And then I think while the warrant is still serviceable, we can still enter the property and go on there.
We will invite, and based on staffing, if they're available, we'll take them. But like I said, you guys dispatched, I think, 3 or 4 people. It was a big help on this one, so.
Good.
Yeah.
Do we know where that one is? Can you say?
Lapine and Bend.
Okay. Okay, great.
2 in Lapine, 1 in Bend.
Yeah, great. And all of those cases are still active from this year, so.
And do you see a decrease of illegal activity, or is it still just out there and rampant? And,
Is that a question for me?
well, I don't know.
Well, I imagine as far as the legal stuff, Dustin would have a much better grasp on the illegal side of it. We might see a portion of it certainly, but we may not see nearly as much as Dustin would.
We've seen a little bit of a decrease in your exterior hemp style hoop house grows. They're still out there, but based on some of the restrictions and some of the new regulations that ODA has put in place over the last year, it's making it harder. Permits are not being handed out at certain points. So we're seeing a little bit of decrease in that style. There's no decrease on interior shop style conversion grows. They're still everywhere.
And those are harder to find, right?
They're harder to find.
You should go get the chopper in the wintertime.
Right. So we are seeing the indoor ones, the outdoor one, and the outdoor ones, a lot of times it depends because you have a very small window because they'll start growing by the time the plants are large enough to be getting complaints. We aren't getting complaints on outdoor grows for smell and stuff until like now.
Yeah.
And harvest is October, right? So it kind of finishes. So we come to a real pinch. And so we'll see how this year turns out. But we are seeing less hemp style grows come up on area being less brazen, I guess.
Mhm.
So we'll see how it ends up going, but there's no lack of work on the indoor side. So,
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and then for the code enforcement side of it, we have like significant compared to like 2000, those earlier years when marijuana was just approved by the county, that kind of stuff. We have significantly less complaint volume over outdoor grows. The smell is not generally reported to us anymore so much. And now it's basically just, I think our case numbers went up from 1% last year to 2% of our caseload this year was marijuana and hemp related. And that's because of the coordination with the sheriff's office more than anything else. The public isn't really complaining so much to us, which is great. It means that the public reception, at least either that or they gave up on us, that are now just calling the sheriff's office.
I think a big part is a lot of people just assume it's legal. So education is big for us. Letting them know that if you have a question at all, come and talk to us. We'll look into it. We'll let you know if it's legal or not.
Right.
There are some legal ones out there, but a lot of people have just discredited it as it's legal now.
And that doesn't take someone divulging their name and making their name known too. So it can be anonymous, well, maybe not anonymous to you, but it won't get back to the property owners.
I would prefer, we have our websites for our tip lines and different things like that people call in. A lot of people are reluctant to leave their name and their phone number, which is really hard for us because we're given very little information, where I'd rather talk to that person and ask a lot of questions that maybe they don't understand is important. And I can keep their name out of it. And so if we can get a name or a phone number and if people actually follow through with contacting us, then we can get a lot more information that we need and we can still keep them anonymous. A lot of people just think, well, if I just drop a tip line and don't leave my phone number and not reachable, some of those you look at them and it's like, that's great.
What if there's a questionnaire that can answer online without having to put their name on?
We have that through our website. So we have a website that they can go to Cannabis, and through Cannabis they can go through and it's a flow chart. And essentially if they're having a problem with their neighbor or a kid having marijuana. Yeah, and so it kind of flow chart down to where and who to report to. So we have that, a lot of it's marketing and just education for the public.
Right.
We've seen that flow chart. It's good. It's like,
If this,
exactly.
if no, if yes, yeah.
And it's a computer, it's not perfect, but it's pretty close.
I noticed too in the paper a few weeks back, I don't know if it was the same case you were talking about, but they mentioned that code enforcement was there as well. Seems much more efficient like that.
Great.
The other.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that information. Our next presenter is Sergeant Ken Vanderkamp with the Clear Alliance program, and I'm sure you will also be contributing, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, guys.
We're gonna do probably more of the heavy lifting, but I'll give you guys kind of a rundown. I'll give you a point your direction to our website. I want to explain, so Clear Alliance, often the question we get is, what does it mean? And it's simply children learning through education and research. We offer several different programs, but obviously we'll be specific tonight to the cannabis. But Clear Alliance specifically focuses on providing evidence-based substance abuse and impaired driving education, training, and health and safety messaging, primarily for youth, but also including parents and schools, driver education programs, and other public safety and other public health organizations that serve these populations. We originally served Oregon, but since then demand has pulled us all over the country, especially as legalization spreads throughout the country. So does the need for this. All of our education materials are referenced with evidence or science-based research and studies. I point that out because we're basing it off of research, not off of emotions or opinions, which is important because a lot of programs that are out there, I think, are more politically driven than educationally or research based. So all of our materials are all going to be based on science and research. And we also have the benefit of some amazing support partners. So ODOT being one of them. We have HIDA, the High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area Organization out of DC, as well as the Drug Free Community Grants. So because we have this background, we also have attracted other organizations like MAD, the Oregon State Sheriff's Association, the Chiefs of Police, various county agencies, including HIDA in Kirk County and Deschutes County and Bend Pine schools and Redmond schools. And so we've attracted this amazing group of board members and formed a great team, mostly comprised of healthcare workers, public safety people. We have a retired judge on our board, and a couple of doctors who also have given this a good look. So our board is diverse. Again, I point that out because it's so diverse that it's not politically driven or really kind of trying to steer anybody. You'll see here in a second some examples of our programs, but they're facts. So we're laying the facts out and letting the youth or the parent or whoever the viewer is to make that decision on what's best for them based on the facts that we provide. So we don't do the traditional scare tactics or blood and guts like used to. I remember from the old driver's education days when we were in school. We found that approach doesn't work so well anymore. Kids and younger generations want to know the why more than what's going to happen if I do make this choice. So we're showing them the why, we are showing them the what, and we're showing them where to find the facts. So with that, I'll let you guys.
Great job.
Did I do good?
You did
Okay,
great.
good.
Yes.
So Nicole, I'll take over.
Yeah, so this is where everything lives. This is our website, clearalliance.org. It just went through a big overhaul. So we had our former website for about 2 to 3 years, and we were getting feedback that it was kind of clunky, not super user friendly. We serve a lot of different audiences. So we serve students, schools, teachers, law enforcement, parents, members of the public. So our education has to be versatile. And with this new overhaul, the second piece of feedback we gathered is cost can be an issue. Just like any educational piece, if it's expensive or if there's any dollar amount, you automatically limit your audience, and that's not the mission. Our mission is to get our information in front of as many youths first and parents and then educators as we possibly can. So we've changed from a charge-based system to a free system. This is a new process for us, so our website it's always evolving in a good way. And so if you're a parent or anybody else student, this is where you would navigate to access our courses. So currently,
I'm so sorry to interrupt. I just see a desktop on my screen. Is there a different screen that I should be viewing?
Sorry, Matt, I should have asked you.
Sorry about that.
It's the first time we're using this room with the new technology.
How much were the courses when you were charging?
So our tobacco, marijuana, and e-cigarette course, that was a $50 course. Our impaired driving education course was $25. And we have the two packages, so it's the take to be a student learner, or there's the teach if you want to be an instructor or you're an educator. With the teach, it used to be a $500 curriculum flat cost for each instructor license, and now we've scaled that down to be flexible. We would never turn anyone away before, but we've made it even more accessible to schools that maybe don't have a prevention education budget. So if they have a budget of $0 or $50, it's flexible. They contribute what they can afford, and they'll get the education.
I got the problem, sorry.
It's okay.
All right, Matt, can you, wait, you're still gonna see it. Now can you see the website?
No, I can, oh, there it goes. Yep,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, so under our all courses tab, we have the 3 curriculums available. Our newest curriculum is the counterfeit pill education course. This was funded primarily through our HIDA grant, and it covers fentanyl and counterfeit pills. We also identified in our curriculums that they need to be condensed. A class hour is the maximum amount of time that we want our curriculum to take up, so it can be done in one session. The TMEC course, which we are getting ready to revamp as well, it's time. It's a 3-hour course. 3 hours. And typically teachers would have to break that up into chunks, which luckily is okay, but it's not ideal. So that's our next goal, is to get this course condensed into a shorter version.
What's TMAX stand for?
So tobacco, marijuana, e-cigarette course. And through this journey, we've had great educators who have shared feedback of, we love TMEC, but we would really love to just focus on vaping because it's such an issue, or we would really like to focus on high potency THC. So we're like, okay, we need to take what we have to offer and have shorts as well. So there's a lot of work ahead of us, but we can do it. We're motivated to do it. For today, we're just gonna hop into the teach course, and I won't spend a ton of time in it, but this is the first screen that they'll kind of see. And this is where they have the option to go in and contribute their donation amount. It gives the suggested value of $500 each, but again, no strings attached if that's not affordable. And if they don't have the budget, they simply complete and continue. And they're right in the course. So the difference between the take and the teach is the teach is more flexible to a teacher. So just like we are in a group environment today, teachers want to engage with their kids. Kids have a lot of questions. When you start to talk about these subjects, kids really open up, and there's a lot of good conversation that goes on. All of our curriculums have been piloted in various schools throughout Central Oregon. Kent usually accompanies us during these piloting sessions, and half the time we're talking with kids about really tough subjects that just come up naturally. So they kind of get that this is a safe space. Some kids, they've never seen, smelt, know what a drug is. You have kids that are in active use and have parents that are also in active use. So we get this melting pot. So that's my favorite part of the curriculum, is it gives kids and parents and teachers an opportunity to talk, to see what's out there, and to just get information. So I'll show you our first module.
What age range is this targeted for?
This is targeted towards middle school and high school students. We have other project work that we need to do that is just specific for elementary school students, because the topics are pretty heavy and it's pretty hard to cover all the information for every group in one piece of curriculum. So we're hoping to have that done at some point too. There's Ken.
Good hair.
I just like that. Isn't it? I just like good hair.
Yeah.
Back when he had hair.
Hello, everyone. Today we are welcoming guest speakers from Clear Alliance to present the tobacco, marijuana, and e-cigarettes course to our health class. As some of you may remember, as a health teacher and curriculum advisor, I've worked closely with Clear Alliance over the years to help develop this curriculum. Clear Alliance developed this program in partnership with prevention, treatment, law enforcement, and school professionals throughout the state of Oregon. So, who is Clear Alliance? Clear Alliance is an Oregon nonprofit built and operated by a coalition of Oregon public health and safety officials. A coalition is a group of community members looking out for our youth. What exactly do they do? Clear Alliance provides fact-based education to youth and adults concerning the consequences of substance abuse and impaired driving. They do this work to increase awareness and to prevent and reduce youth substance abuse and impaired driving. Clear Alliance offers a number of coalition projects, including educational flyers, which are available to download for free from their website. Did you know ads featuring real youth, families, and pets, and trainings, online resources, and courses such as this one. This tobacco, marijuana, and e-cigarettes course is made up of 12 modules. The introduction is the first module in the course. The other modules are perception of harm, tobacco history and media literacy, is marijuana a medicine, CBD, THC, and hash oil, vaping and e-cigarettes, health consequences part 1, health consequences part 2, drug intoxication, impaired driving, refusal skills, case study, and summary. We will begin with a pre-survey, continue with the interactive course, and then finish with a post-survey at the conclusion of the entire program. The survey is 100% anonymous. Please be honest, your answers will help us improve our programs. Also, please be sure to read the questions carefully. Some of them require more than one answer.
That's just an example of how all of our
Only the.
Oh, I know.
Me too,
I get all my steps in there.
Thank you. So that's just an example of how our modules are set up. All of our curriculums are animation based, and Darla, she has really elevated our animation. So this animation is actually going on 4 years old. So the content we can easily pull out, update, and fix. But the overall look, it's a big overhaul. So she took the counterfeit pill education course and she brought that up a level. So with every curriculum that we have, once a student or teacher is finished with the module, they simply complete and continue. And like it mentioned, there's a survey. So this QR code pops up next. If teachers allow for phone use, they can use their phone to scan the code, put in the anonymous survey information. That data is captured on our side and it is anonymous. And we use that for various grant reporting. We use it to build curriculums. We use it just as, wow, you know, kids are really reporting out on this subject right now, or they're feeling a certain type of way. So it's a valuable tool. We do a lot of surveying and our piloting as well. So all the topics that you see in our curriculums, those were topics that students across Oregon talked about, brought up. They had questions on. It came up in organic conversations. So we have subject matter experts such as Kent, who contribute different topics and ideas, but they don't overwhelm the education. It's very much student-led and what's going on in their minds and in their culture at the time.
the one module that came up that I thought was spot on was the refusal skills, giving kids the out, you know, to prevent them from having that peer pressure of, "Well, I better use it, otherwise I'm not gonna be cool," so
Yes.
that, yeah.
Yes, and that's a module that is consistent in all of our curriculums. With fentanyl and counterfeit pills, it's probably one of the most valuable tools that students can take away, especially in today's world where there's not just in-person pressure, there's social media pressures and how to navigate those things. And the perception of harm on drugs as a whole with students right now is very low. It's scary.
They don't think they're gonna be
Yes.
affected by it.
As more substances become legalized, which is great for adults, students overwhelmingly see legalization as this may be safe. And so the lines get crossed, it gets a little bit muddy. So that's where our prevention education comes in as, yes, these are things that are available. Yes, they are used, but you as a youth, you don't have to do this, or there are inherent risks, and we just provide them with that information. So that's a little peek into TMEC. Do you have any other questions? Do you want to see any other modules?
You know, the big thing that we have really learned over this is the data that we get from the kids. So we give them a survey, and the survey is, what do you know? We give them questions about different topics in the TMIC. Everything from, what do you know about tobacco? Is it harmful? What do you know about cannabis? Is it harmful or is it not? And we also then survey them at the end to see what they've learned, what they've gotten from the program. And the way that we package this into bite sizes has been perfect for that, because they're able to extract that information that we're trying to deliver to them. There's no line, we're about prevention. We're trying to prevent kids from getting into all of these substances, as well as the ones that you don't see on the board right now, like the fentanyl pills. It's very accessible to kids, cannabis being one of those things. And that's what we're trying to do, is teach them, hey, this is what it is, this is how it works. Some of our, for lack of a better word, and I hate using the word competitors because this is kind of a team sport, but public health is a great example. Love public health, love the work that they do, but they're more about harm reduction. I'd rather them not take a fentanyl pill, whereas their approach is, hey, here's how you can do it safely. I don't like that philosophy, and that's definitely not what we do here. We give them the data, and we say, here's how you make a wise choice. You're a child living in an adult world, right? So now we're asking you to not buy fentanyl or cannabis products on Snapchat, which is where a lot of it comes from in that generation. You'd be amazed. The days of the drug dealer behind 7-Eleven are gone. You can buy just about everything now on
Well,
social
we were
media.
just discussing today how Delta 8 products are available and widely marketed on the internet, on Instagram and things like
Yeah.
that.
It's all, anything that you can think of is on Instagram, Snapchat, or Facebook. You can pretty much buy anything. They
So you
must,
set up a buy and then you meet the person somewhere?
no, they deliver it right to your house and mail it to
Yeah.
you, or they deliver it.
You can get wine delivered to your house, and you're supposed to be of age, but the wine's dropped off at your house.
Yeah, it's very, very accessible. So that's what we're trying to do, is to deliver that message in bite size and make it catch. And we started with driver's education stuff, and we learned, especially during the COVID years, right, when all the kids were at home and we were learning, teaching by Zoom, is we learned a lot from that moment in time as to how young people and how adults learn. And we found that the bite-sized modules is the way to do it, rather than just blah
Right.
and giving it all to them. So that's the big difference. I know Public Health has a program that they've kind of adopted. It's very similar to ours, but they're doing more of the harm reduction piece. We're definitely in the prevention business. And that's the message we deliver in this product. So that's what I wanted the opportunity tonight to talk to you folks, because I know that Jessica and her group presented their product, and it's a great product. But we definitely deliver a much different, sharper message with raw data that comes from the streets, comes from the students, comes from the industry. And that's what we wanted to put out there, rather than here's how to do it safely.
So how did you roll this out? I mean, it's currently in the schools now, or how did this, I mean, how did you get this out
So you're talking about just the TMEC or just kind of our products as a whole?
as a whole, yeah?
So as a whole, we originally got into the business in the driver's education and impaired driving. So our impaired driving component is what we're delivering to the schools via driver's education. And then as these different need-based programs came up, like vaping was a hot commodity the last couple of years in schools, and so was cannabis as legalization came about. So that's how we started kind of building on to the different programs, and we would take those back to the schools and then roll them out through the schools. That was our mainstay, was through the school, all the school districts. And then we got into alternative punishment programs, like a kid gets caught smoking marijuana or vaping at school, rather than expelling them or putting them on suspension for a week, they would offer them to take this course in lieu of the suspension. And that's another way that we kind of got into that market.
So is this in health classes or this is, okay, it's part of the health curriculum?
It is. It's very active right now in the Redmond, and we also are approved in Ben Lapine, and it's more teacher-based versus district-wide in Ben Lapine. But Redmond has really embraced it, and Crook County. My wife's school, she teaches at Trinity Lutheran. Her school has adopted it as well. But as that demand comes, we find that there's more and more need, and it's a moving target, right? One day it's cannabis, next day it's vaping, and now we're dealing with fentanyl bills. So,
Well, the new scientific information with vaping is scary, what it does for kids right now.
it is.
And the classroom discussion, you mentioned that there's, people that don't use it and people that do. The youth that are users of whatever, are they participatory in the class discussion?
Yes.
They are.
Overwhelmingly, yeah. There's something about the environment where I think Kent does a really good job facilitating, for sure.
And making it a safe space,
And making
right?
it a safe,
Yeah.
non-judgmental space. But they will open up as far as like, yeah, I have a friend, he's called a plug. We learned what a plug is on social media through a student, which is basically a middle or high school student working for the big time drug dealer in the region or the city or wherever, and they're facilitating buys through their Snapchat. So we learn a lot. There's students that have talked about, I'm struggling with addiction, and we've given them resources during these piloting sessions to go and seek help, because it's kind of a spectrum. We are prevention, which is kind of the first step, and then there's treatment, and then there's recovery. And so there's room for everybody. It's just recognizing those audiences are all different. So there's a big space for prevention. Hopefully we can capture most of the kids before they even need treatment. That's the goal. And then with the harm reduction stuff, well, we understand that too, but that's not for our audience yet, hopefully never. So we kind of look at it that way, as we're one piece to a very big convoluted puzzle.
And I'd say the audiences that we speak to, the ones that always amaze me are the parents. Parents generally don't know nearly as much as the kids.
Oh, I'm sure.
And when I'm done with them, they usually want to smash their kids' cell phones. So, yeah, they see the same programs. They're usually kind of shocked at what's out there and what's available, and they don't know a lot of the science behind it. I mean, the marijuana, and I don't need to tell anybody in this room, the marijuana today is a lot different than it was in the 80s. And they think it's still the 1980s. So they're like, my kid can drive high. I don't mind. So they definitely have a different perspective when we're done, and they see a lot of the data that's out there. A lot of the material that we have is Oregon-based in terms of crash data, driving impaired data with cannabis. So they see the data and they realize, oh, this isn't marijuana from 1980. So
where is the data by chance in all the studies that you reference? Is it on the website?
you can actually take the whole class, yeah, absolutely, and they have all the references right there, yeah.
I was gonna ask that actually, because I mean, just for the sake of time, I would like to look at a couple of those modules.
Yeah.
But I don't wanna spend
It's
rabbit
it's
hole
all
right
in there.
now.
You can
Yeah,
take the whole
you
class.
can
Okay,
access
so,
it
you know,
just
we'll
like
have
we
the
Yep.
link or address to go
Yep, we
check
have
it out.
business cards with the QR code on, so we'll pass
Great.
those out, that you guys can access it.
My other questions would be, it's fee-based, so it was 500 or 25, 50 a class or something like that.
Those are donations for you. We're having a sale. You can take it for free.
Thank you. I appreciate
Down in
that.
the Airstream, see, there's benefits of being on this panel.
But that probably doesn't fund the whole program, so where does your other funding come from?
So our funding comes from several different sources. Our big sources, our grants are the Drug-Free Community Grant, the US government, HIDA, which is also the US government, and ODOT, which is obviously local. And then we have lots of smaller grants. So we have a couple from like State Farm Insurance, for example. They give us a little bit of money. Different grantees.
Grant-based.
We're all grant-based, yeah. We'd love to be independent and just have collect revenue, but we would rather have the data get out there and the classes get out there and the information than to worry about trying to survive off of selling each one of these classes.
Right. Yeah.
We've kind of, that's why we
I figured there'd
changed
be
our.
some front loading to.
Yeah, it's all.
Explains the grant.
And Deschutes County is generous too. They actually have provided us a grant, so. We definitely get a lot of help, but we wanted it to be available more than affordable.
Yeah, remove the barriers.
Yes.
And then for you guys, what does, especially being in prevention, how do you measure your success?
That's a hard question. We ask that a lot. So we can't, obviously, the number one goal
Or
is
what
to.
does success look like, maybe then not measure
Yes,
it?
yes.
Maybe that's more fair.
Yeah, I think number one, optimistically, it's to save lives and to save a lot of people from pain. That's hard to measure unless we're following people from the time they take the course all the way through adulthood. Through our surveying, we have a post survey that kind of serves as a temperature check. So how much did they know prior to taking the course and how much did they learn by the end of taking the course? And so far, across the board, the majority of our learners, they've increased their scores by leaps and bounds. So that's what we use to concretely kind of measure what we're doing is, did they take at least one thing away? And they're taking more than one thing away.
I think what would be interesting too as time goes on, because the state, every other year or whatever, they have the survey, I forget the name of it now, because I'm not doing that work anymore.
Yeah.
But they do surveys of, I think it's 6th grader, 8th graders.
Yeah, they work in health.
Thank you, that's, yeah, and so it would be interesting to see if there's any correlation with what comes out of that.
That's a tough one, and here's why, is because first, each school district can choose, A, if they want to
Right.
participate,
Right.
and B, which parts they want to participate in. There are a lot of lobbyists who fought the state on putting questions in there about cannabis and asking questions about cannabis. And so we struggled with that because the test became kind of skewed. For example, the test that Ben Lapine kids is going to be different than what they see in Bedford.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or in Jackson County or Josephine County, because the cannabis industry's got a pretty firm grip in Jackson and Josephine County. And so they said, hey, we don't want questions about cannabis on this health test. But in Deschutes County, yeah, you can have it in Deschutes County. So the data was not whole. And so I'd like to think it would be the help, but it wasn't for us anyways. We found that we were getting better data from driver's education programs because we were kind of in control of that data and what the kids were telling us data-wise. Obviously, our sample size is considerably smaller than the entire state,
Right.
but the data was still decent, at least in giving us a direction, a barometer of where we were going with it. But when somebody comes to us and says, hey, I realize I smoked a lot of marijuana and I think there's an addiction, or at least I find that I'm dependent on it, and I went and made some changes in my life, that's my win. So, or hey, I chose not to drive. I always felt like I could drive when I smoked, but I knew I couldn't because I watched this program, I saw what had happened. So I made the decision of having a buddy come get me or getting an Uber. So that's a win, that's my metric.
Customer review.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Giving them critical thinking, I think is very important, and that's what we aim to do, is get them to think of what they're doing and what the consequences are.
That's great.
Good question, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Would you like to
Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome to stay.
Interesting.
Okay, great. Just trying to be cognizant of staff time.
Oh, I appreciate it.
So we're at CAB member update, terms, thank you. Terms and appointments. this is gonna be riveting. You're gonna wanna stay for this.
Sounds all, yeah, well, again, I appreciate you guys letting me come and talk.
Thank you,
and,
thanks very much.
Guys have a good night.
I just have to take that meeting. Safely.
Matt, can you see that website? Great. You guys can't.
Okay, all right.
Oh, this is a bad idea.
I'm working through these technicalities today.
I'm so impressed. I'm glad you're doing it.
Are you
because-
really?
No, I really am, because I wouldn't know what.
Okay, there we go. Matt, can you see that? No? Okay, great. So, do you want me to kick off on this part?
Yeah, sure, please.
Okay, so, we're coming at the 2-year mark from, I think, when this panel started. So 2 things are happening. One, the chair will, I think you mentioned this briefly, the chair by charter can only be for 2 years. And then we have 3 positions, I believe, 3 positions that are coming to term in October. And so we will need to go before the board, but first we just wanted to get a temperature of the 3 positions, which is Dustin, Hunter, and Andrew, thank you, that are expiring on October 17th. So if there is interest from those members to continue serving in their role, then we can bring that before the board and then report back at the next October
So they
meeting.
don't have to leave.
Don't have to leave,
Okay.
nope, it's cleared out with legal counsel, so you guys are
Okay.
interested. I think the opinion is everyone would love everyone, that seems to be a good group to move forward.
Right.
But if you're not interested in continuing, then we can kind of look to fill that position. So fairly quick action item, but just checking in on Dustin, Hunter, and Andrew.
Right, you thumbs up for you? Yeah, continue, and, okay, great, oh, thank you.
Great. So I will have to go before the board, but we don't see on that one.
Well, maybe Hunter, but yeah. Has it really been 2 years?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like that, that's
I
great.
know.
It's not quick.
Holy cow. Okay, so,
I guess it started in COVID, right?
Yeah.
Tail end, yeah.
yeah, because we were all separate.
Yeah.
Remember, we were
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
downstairs
yeah.
and,
We all had our own tables.
yeah.
I was
I just
First
watched
meeting I
the
was in my
first
truck.
meeting, so you did get some information pulled out of there. It was really interesting. It's like a flashback of what, the beginning of COVID and what was happening.
Oh my gosh, stupid COVID, that's what I call it. Okay, so, the chair position, now what should we do about that?
So that also expires so your term ends in October.
Okay.
So I think one of the things we put on there, potential, but I think this is gonna be for sure.
Thank you.
For next meeting was doing a chair election.
Okay,
Can we leave her?
Unfortunately. I did look into that too, because I know that was expressed, but because it's written into the charter, I
Can we
could
change it before next
ask,
meeting?
if everyone's interested, I could ask legal counsel if we can amend the charter on that one,
to amend it to do what?
to keep
Keep
you
it
on.
out.
Sure.
I said if everyone is in.
Now, so now you got elected.
But she was pretty excited, so I was happy to have her.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind, it's, I don't mind to continue, but I just thought somebody else might wanna take the reins.
You're signing up, volunteering.
Nope.
So why don't I do this, and I will ask legal counsel if we can amend the charter.
Okay.
To extend that chair position,
Or see
and
if she can be reelected.
I checked into that,
Or she
so,
can't.
What if you quit?
yeah, but apparently just the wording of it.
There you go. Outside the box.
Quit
come
for
back,
a day.
come back.
Okay, so what I can do then is put that in an email, when I send around, I think I only send the draft meeting minutes to you. So I can put that in the email to you, and then you can send it out to everyone what the legal decision is. So if they're saying, no, you can't amend the charter, then you guys can, we will bring it up at the next meeting, but you can start thinking about it if somebody wants to.
I guess it would only be fair though, probably to run around the room. Is anybody interested that wants it? So before we go through the hoops of trying to.
It's not a lot of extra work. Jen is,
If you're not able to go,
Jen is great, because she sends me the minutes to review, I sometimes make some comments, and like previewing the agenda items.
right.
So it's not that much extra work. But anyway, Okay,
Sounds like we
So
gotta
does
change or if
anybody
they don't let us change.
would you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got a nomination for Mary if they won't let us change.
Yeah.
Okay, great, so I'll,
Okay.
I'll check in, so it sounds like all of our bases are covered. on that
Great.
one.
Perfect. Members of the public.
Yeah, I think it's great that it is a member of public.
Well, I'm not the members.
Yeah, I know. That's what I meant. You guys are community at large. right?
Yes, exactly.
Position.
Okay, I believe you are the only member of the public here, unless we have, no, we only
No,
have
no,
Matt
no.
online.
Do I count as a county employee, I guess?
Would you like to make any comments?
I think you've probably heard enough.
Okay. Okay, then our next step is our calendars for the tentatively scheduled October 16th, if we can all check. See if we're available.
Ooh, October 16th.
What's going on?
I was vaguely this year, so it looks like.
Oh, I think I'm coming back from Houston on that day.
And I should have said earlier too, the extensions from here on out will be 2-year terms. The first ones were staggered in case people were leaving, but so all appointments going forward are 2-year terms.
2 years,
So,
okay.
Great.
I don't think I'm gonna be in town on the 16th of October. Can we move it up or back a week?
23rd would be better for me.
23rd?
It'd be better than the 9th.
I would go the 23rd.
Yes, Mary?
The 9th to the 23rd.
23rd, okay.
23rd works for me.
23rd works better.
23rd's fine with me, yeah.
23rd
Actually
for
works
you?
better too.
And Matt, 23rd?
No
Of October.
conflicts for me.
Okay, and you may try to come for that meeting?
Yeah, I'll do my best.
Okay, understood, okay.
Matt, where do you live? Do you live in Central Oregon?
Troutdale.
Troutdale.
Oh, wow.
Okay, yeah.
Do you guys have a preference? Do you like this room? The other room that we were meeting in downstairs, they don't have the new Zoom technology and it's been really wonky, so we try not to do anything on Zoom down there until they fix it. But we could keep it up here. It's a little bit more intimate. Okay, great.
Yeah, I do like this.
Okay.
Not like we have a big public presence.
Right, right.
Yeah, wait till next meeting.
Are we gonna get, what's that, flash?
Flash mob.
Yeah, flash mob. I think I'm over it. Okay, I think that's it.
No, we
No.
have topics for next meeting,
Oh,
which I have a couple things I
okay.
wanna throw out. Is I think it would be nice to have like kind of a report out from the funds that we put out there, like how's it going? Some kind of report out to those organizations that have money from us.
Well, by October, they may actually have, yeah, this meeting would be too soon, but I like that.
Yeah,
I would be interested in a water presentation,
in a what?
water with
Oh,
Jerry,
yes.
because we have not heard.
That's right.
I have one.
Okay.
I would love, if it's possible, during that presentation, for us to look at cannabis versus other crops that are grown within the county and their water usage.
Oh, gosh.
Do we have that, Dave? Do you have that?
I don't, well, I mean, I know acre foot per acre, depending on crop. I did an audit, 3 years ago, looking at the marijuana usage, water usage, and it was trivially small amount of water. I mean, it was very small, yeah.
The sky did not fall in.
No, but there, I mean, there's a thought out there that it would, but,
Well, that was a
when I
big
looked-
talking point, is that all the wells and
Would go dry.
went, or were going dry, remember?
Yeah.
People were
We're
showing
dropping,
up
we
and
gotta
saying,
go deeper.
but it was, I mean, it was nothing at the end of the day. I
But on
mean,
the illicit side, though, a lot of it's taken illegally or stolen, or there's.
Or out of,
Right.
out of residential wells.
Yeah.
as opposed to-
Right.
For sure.
I mean, a residential well, you're allowed to do.
no marijuana unless it's
2,000 gallons.
for domestic purposes, half acre of lawn or non-commercial, so you can't grow anything with the intent itself. No
With the new
vegetables.
Senate bill that was passed 2 weeks ago. Any cannabis crop is considered a commercial crop
Yeah.
without permits.
But that just made me laugh because you see so much flood irrigation, so that my other board is trying to.
What, it made the state look at it, so, of the exempt uses, we have 5,000 gallons a day for commercial usage. And so they thought for all these years was, oh, you can grow something to sell. Well, because we have a use called irrigation that you get a water right for, then the Attorney General's office looked at it when marijuana came out and said, no, you could process it with that 5,000 gallons a day, but you can't grow it, you need an irrigation water
That's
right.
interesting.
And so the whole state of Oregon kind of changed their tune overnight on what the commercial meant, 5,000 gallons a day.
Oh, that's interesting.
Processing, no growing.
Processing, but no growing.
Your basin actually ends before East Bend, correct?
At where?
Your water.
I go from Maupin down to Chemalt. I cover Christmas Valley, Fort Rock. I go almost to Burns and I go to the crest of the Cascades.
So Orange District.
Wow.
It's about 15,000 square miles.
Wow.
So, and that's what, like, when the county said, you know, it exploded in 2020, my phone was ringing every day on grows, and now it's once every 2 weeks. It's slowed down tremendously.
And majority of that is illegal activity.
Other topic suggestions for October?
I'm interested if they ever, Jake will share a sample of the mailer with the cannabis advisory panel.
The Jackson County, are you talking about the Jackson County one?
Yeah,
They already got that and put
I
it out
saw
in
that,
email.
I had a question too, is
Did-
like, did we
well,
ever do
my-
anything with it?
Well, yeah, that's what my, that's what reminded me of that, is,
Okay.
did we, are we going to be able to do anything similar on our mailer, or is that a kibosh?
So the way it works, you know, the panel makes recommendations to the board, so if there is a recommendation, if I'm recalling correctly, we shared a mailer from one of our presenters from the last meeting, everyone got that. Now, if the group wants to, at the next meeting, talk about that mailer, potentially drafting one and then presenting it to the board for recommendation, we could add that to the agenda for next time.
And that would go into tax bills?
Yeah, the assessors.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
I'm behind on the commissioner meetings as well, but, did they already discuss all of our recommendations?
For the budget?
Yeah.
Yep, and it's approved and done. Budget's finalized and they took, yeah, sorry, I should have reported on that, or sent that name. Yes, they took all of your recommendations and that went through in the next year's budget.
As we.
Yeah, exactly as you recommended it.
Yeah, that's why I want to report out, so we can find out how that went.
Do you know what meeting that was?
So there was not a board meeting specifically on the cap budget. There was a whole budget week of meetings where they adopted the budget, which is many pages.
Right.
Very long, 100-some pages. So I'm not sure, I didn't hear it, but I didn't listen to the whole budget week hearings. But I don't believe it was very specifically addressed in those hearings. It was put through, I think Eric put it through in an email as a follow-up from the last meeting of like, the CAP is recommending this, let us know if you have any questions. There were no questions, it went over to finance and got to the budget.
Great.
Not that I want to give you guys more work, but another interesting topic might be some of the legislative changes with marijuana criminal laws. Have you guys already talked about that, or maybe that would be something?
We haven't talked about it. I can bring up, I don't have it down pat, but there's some pretty key things that happened in the last Senate bill. One of the things I was just referencing a second ago. One of them was any cannabis grown as a crop without a license is being now looked at as a commercial crop, right? So that came into effect roughly 2 weeks ago. We also have a bill that passed that's allowing for some of our investigations. And I've mentioned it a little bit in past some presentations, being that you only have one detective, or now we have two, right? We will utilize our code team also for what we need, but doing physical follow-up and surveillance is very hard on some of these operations. And so couple of our investigative tools, using vehicle trackers, or using and trap and trace.
Did you get a drone?
What's that?
Did you get a
Oh,
drone?
we got lots of drones. Still need a warrant for a drone, but that's okay. We use them, but the pin trap and traces to follow phones utilize different technology to try and identify other growing locations or other places of operation for storing or processing or different things like that, maybe where their money is held, maybe where they're processing and packaging, all the way down to even maybe how they're shipping it out of state, whether they're driving it, doing dead runs east. So those things can be available. They're investigative tools that are gonna help us in the future. It might create a lot of work because it might identify, we may be looking at one person, one location, identify 5 grows. So we don't know how it's gonna unfold, but those are a couple good things. Also, some of the charging. So in the past, and one of our biggest challenges is we wanted to try and get people who are ill doers that are committing the crimes and bringing this black market into our community. We wanted to have them hang a charge on them that would eliminate them from the entities in which they could grow under a legal mask. So with it, we were thinking at first it was a felony charge, right? A felony charge would eliminate you from the medical or from OLCC or from the ODA program, that you couldn't operate under the mask of legality of the legal side and actually try and produce illegally under that mask. Well, as we started pushing these cases through and we started taking convictions, we were getting C felony convictions for manufacture. Then we found out that in their small print, it has to be a B felony, not a C felony. So what we were doing was, for instance, I worked a case where a guy was working a medical location for one patient. He can have 6 mature plants. He can have 12 immature plants regardless of size. And depending on definition, potentially 24 starter plants, right? What would happen is they would give a license. In this particular investigation that I did, he was growing and I think he had upwards of 300 plants. So I wrote a warrant into that house. We went in, we processed that grow, we followed 4 charges. He pled out to manufacturer C felony. He walked out the door, he walked straight to OMP. He got his OMP medical license back. He is operating under the same guidelines that he was prior to the day after sentencing.
Wow.
So, and when you talk to, we talk to the probation officers who are supervising them, they say, yeah, there's nothing we can do about it. There's no stipulation in his release agreement. So we've started changing some of his terms and conditions of probation, that during their probation period of 18 months or whatever it is they get, 24 months, that they can't participate in the 3 entities. So that was our way around it. The House bill that just passed has now steepened the penalties. So if you were to have, now it's 8 times the legal, 16 times the legal limit would be a felony. Now, if it's 32 times the legal limit, it's a B felony. So so that goes for process, that goes for plants. So if we have 11 plants, or if we had 13 plants, it's a B felony or a C felony. Now, if you are 32 times the legal limit, which I don't quote me on the numbers, but roughly I want to say it's 128 plants. So if you have 128 plants, it's now a B felony, as opposed to, and 128 plants is a lot of plants.
Yeah.
But almost every single case that I work, there's over 128 plants, because we're not going for the 6 plants in the backyard, right? So that's a steeper penalty, B felony, which will help with charging, potentially getting people off the street, but then also getting other programs.
Right.
Same thing with process. So if they have 16 times the legal limit, right? So if they have 16 pounds of processed marijuana, which we have at every single one of these grows, that would steepen the penalty to also make an impact in the future. So there's some good stuff that's come out. These are wins for, I say me as law enforcement, but I say us as a board and us as a community, especially for going forward with this. So we have some good things that have come out. We're waiting to implement them. We haven't worked a case under those yet because it's only 2 weeks ago that they were implemented. So
Sorry, I meant that for the October agenda. I didn't know we could fire that off. It was fresh.
I still have to read the rest of the bill. They're fairly long.
So you're telling me somebody can be arrested, felony, cultivation, whatever manufacturing that the charge is, and still get an OMMP renewal?
Before, yes.
Before, okay, with this new law.
Governor Kotek just signed it 2 weeks ago, so now.
Because you have to have a background check for OMMP, don't you?
You do, but it doesn't reach the level of the crime. So it has to be a B felony. A C felony doesn't meet the threshold. For instance, we have a gentleman, a case that I worked for psilocybin. And he took a plea for manufacture of a Schedule I controlled substance. He applied for the OLCC commercial program. He's doing, I guess, probably along the lines of like lab work, more edibles, more things like that, right? But he holds a processor's license, right? And I called OLCC and said, explain to me why. And they said, well, and this is not a loophole. He was able to explain his charge. So what did he explain his charge was? He says, well, he wasn't manufacturing psilocybin mushrooms. He was, what was it, a gene?
He wrote it on the board.
I wrote on the board. He's a gene analyst of non-toxic psilocybin. And it's like, that's not written in ORS. It's not written.
It's just a different molecular structure.
Right. And so he literally, all he's doing is he just worded his way around it and they allowed him in the program. So we can only do so much. We'll see what happens in the future. Yeah, he got around it. And he was a super nice guy too. Super nice guy, very smart, very educated, but he was doing some wrong things. So hopefully this will help in the future with some of these new rules that are passed down. So.
Wow. Okay.
We got it this week.
Can we just confirm for the next meeting? So we're gonna do the chair, hearing a presentation from Jeremy. Marijuana law updates, we don't need to do that.
Got it.
I didn't actually even capture that in the notes, because whatever, but I can, if need be. And then update from the funds recommended from CAP. So you're talking about the fiscal year 24
Yes.
budget, okay.
Yes.
I do wonder, so that doesn't go into, that just went into effect July 1st, so that's only gonna give them 3 months for an update. I'm not for a full year's amounts of budget, so I'm not sure
If they
maybe
have-
we wanna wait the 6-month mark
Yeah,
even
probably.
Yeah.
for that. So we probably do need one more topic,
Well, that was the one with the letter.
unless, I mean, you could probably talk for a while on water usage, Jeremy. Do you want an hour and a half?
I can make
An
it
hour.
as long or as short as you guys want.
I'll leave it up to you guys, but if you wanna just leave it at the chair on the water usage.
Well, I do think it's a good idea to talk about the mailer.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Oh, sorry, the mailer, yes,
I
okay.
don't remember seeing the mailer. Maybe
I just went back and looked.
It came out via email.
I sent it via email on. I thought I sent
I
it.
did send it, cause I got a copy.
I know, I'm just looking at the one from Jake who sent it. He sent it on
It was right after. our
April
last- yeah, right
19th
after
to
our meeting.
me. Let's see the.
Are you guys good with that legal update? I can go further, but there's not a whole lot more than that. That's the gist of.
If
I'll
there
review
is any further information, any
I'll
other.
review it and see if there's anything else.
Okay, and the anecdotal stories that you have are always very interesting.
Yes.
But I guess the main takeaway to that is if we have time, we could draft our own and see if the board wants to use it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna I'm gonna send this back around, so it's the top of everyone's inbox, and then add Jeremy and add Matt. So you have the mailer and
Okay.
the information from Jake Johnson who provided it, so.
thank you.
I'm just gonna forward that around, so it's at the top of everyone's. So we'll have the chair, the water usage, and the mailer
Mailer.
discussion.
Right.
Okay, great.
Is psilocybin legal in district?
Psilocybin?
Yeah, is that legal in
Yes.
district?
Well, to extent.
I mean, everything's legal, right?
There's a new program in the
Certain-
state.
No, so let me change that terminology. Not everything's legal, certain things are decriminalized.
Decriminalized.
So they would be violation as opposed to crime.
Yeah.
There's a difference, right? There's not a difference, right? So the substance, we use methamphetamine, heroin, cocaine as an example instead of marijuana. The substance is still illegal, right? The substance to possess and use is still illegal. What they did is they essentially went to thresholds. Essentially, if you have a very small amount, it is considered a violation. So violation will fall under the criteria of like a stop sign ticket, right? But they're not that much. They're 65 now, 35. The violation, 110
tickets, still $100.
Okay, $100. So a ticket essentially, right? Once you meet that threshold that breaks whatever that threshold is, it makes it a misdemeanor, right? And once you have enough of it, then it makes it a felony. So the threshold between violation and between crime, when you say it's all legal, it's not legal. It's decriminalized for small amounts. Does that make sense?
But the psilocybin thing, they've got people in training to be able to facilitate working with people, but they haven't got facilities set up yet.
So the legalization of psilocybin, essentially it was passed for medical use, right? It is not able to be used on the road. It is not able to be sold and taken into your house. There are places down in California that are becoming very popular where they're making cookies and stuff like that, candy bars, stuff like that with psilocybin in it.
No way, people buy it and take it and trip on their own?
Yes, it's actually becoming very common.
Instagram and get it shipped from over to California.
It's becoming
to your
very
front
common
door if you would like
in our
that.
search warrants where I'm seeing and we're
Pretty
seeing
crazy.
tinctures, the oils of psilocybin, and it's kind of funny the way they describe it, like 1 drop makes you relax, 2 drops makes you silly, and 3 drops makes the walls paint melt, right? Like they'll explain it on the bottle that way. But what they've done is they've medically legalized it. They haven't really implemented too much of it. So then it's going to be like the marijuana program where you would have to have a license in a location that is approved to manufacture and grow it. That went to a vote last year, and the only 2 counties in Oregon were Deschutes and Douglas. I think it was Douglas. So Deschutes and to manufacture. So Deschutes County voted to allow manufacturing here, like we put a moratorium on OLCC through vote, right? So it will be able to be produced. The concern of mine is it's going to go black market. And when it goes black market, the market will be flooded, just as you guys are experiencing now.
It already is.
It is, and so then that is designed not only for out of state, but now in state. We're gonna have so much of it that it will now be in the hands of kids. It's gonna be the same exact thing that happened with marijuana, but it's gonna be a harder thing to kick, and it's gonna be a harder, probably more dangerous thing for kids and people to be driving.
Well,
and
emergency
having a
room's
big,
gonna be packed.
Yeah, so what they are doing is they have created a curriculum for implementing it, and yes, it will have to be administered in a facility by, they say a physician, but it's not a physician. The course that they're making is what, 6 hours, 4 hours? 4 hours for administration, observation, and release.
4 hours to be trained as a
To be
facilitator?
licensed as a facilitator. It's ridiculous.
My teammate program is just as long as their facilitator.
Yeah.
Yes.
No
No
way.
kidding.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's pretty
scary.
ridiculous, the level of oversight that they're gonna have.
That's interesting.
The class that pump
I
gas.
thought it was longer than that.
I thought it was like a couple weeks.
I thought it was a couple of months.
No, it's like 4 to 6 hours.
It's online, it's all virtual.
It's probably easier to
my
get your
gosh.
voter's license.
I mean, it does grow in our mountains.
The class at COCC
And on
to
the
be a flagger.
Yeah.
Is 3 days.
And then 4.
In our cow fields.
And in California.
everywhere.
Those are the ones that don't taste very good.
Well, yeah, but the spores, doesn't it just like,
It's everywhere.
yeah.
That's a natural. Yeah.
Grows fairly natural, native in Oregon.
Yeah.
And to show you how weird the fee schedule is for fines. So the small amount, so you can have a gram of heroin, $100 ticket. You get caught doing 60 on the Parkway, $287.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's my question. Is there any update on 110? And first of all, deploying all the money that they have diverted from our taxes.
The 20 million sitting in a bank account.
20 million,
More than that,
it's
isn't it?
300 million.
Oh, is it that high?
It was
It's a
190
lot.
million the first year or something like that. It's like,
From 110 tickets?
Yeah.
yeah,
No, no, no,
so
no, no.
110.
Tax revenue.
So 110
Measure one.
took
Oh, yeah.
80% of the cannabis taxes and diverted it to mental health and treatment, right?
I would tell you to start.
And they
looking
had
at
no
general
way
fund.
to deploy it into treatment. And so it sat in a bank account till it was at least 200 million.
They're not doing much. They said that they're starting to do a little, but
My understanding is everything they spent money on is commercial, saying it's working.
So they haven't
Well, they're not
deployed
using it
any
in
of the
treatment.
money for treatment.
Well, the problem is nobody's knocking on the door for treatment.
Right. But I mean, they haven't even built the facilities yet because there's not enough facilities once they have people. So they haven't deployed the money to build the facility, and then they need to put some teeth in it to make people go.
Well, and that's the teeth that's
So
the
I think
problem.
those are the two changes.
The $100 ticket.
Yeah.
Well, so what's,
Yeah,
it's
you
kind of
don't
a
have to pay.
cascading effect, right? So here I'm gonna ask an officer or deputy, hey, stop your busy call load to write a $100 ticket. Of which, by the way, if they do not call the number on the back, they ball it up and throw it away, the court does.
No penalty.
Like, there's no
Yeah,
penalty,
yeah.
there's no warrant, there's no, hey, come see the judge. It's just back
I
to
mean,
square
I think
one.
that's the legislation that needs to be done, is if you don't appear or you don't pay that ticket, it's a failure to appear, and then it escalates.
Right. So the ones that do write the tickets, the cops that write the tickets, only 3% of the tickets that are written, the people call the number on the back. The rest of them ball the ticket up and throw it away.
Wow.
So it's just a vicious cycle. And so what I have seen, and especially with the round of some of the legislation that came through on cannabis, is the legislature's patience, I think, has finally worn off. Their constituents, especially in the metro area,
Yeah.
have said enough is enough.
Yeah.
And so now the new laws that the legislature is putting out there is definitely not as friendly as it was 3-4 years ago. So I see things like us revisiting 110. We had an international case that came to our team in the mail. 3 pounds of ketamine got picked off. And I thought, oh, it was a decent case. Well, I come to find out 3 pounds of ketamine is covered in 110. They can have 3 pounds of ketamine.
Oh,
3
my
pounds?
3
I
pounds.
thought that they fixed,
Holy
no, it
smokes.
was it ketamine that they made the new, they lowered that?
They did, yeah. So they lowered a few of them, but
That's
ketamine,
right.
3 pounds.
That's
they
a
said,
lot.
So
Commercial
fentanyl
use
was,
in Oregon, apparently.
fentanyl was a win for law enforcement. They did lower the numbers, so it's
Yeah.
now five pills makes it a misdemeanor.
The fentanyl stuff
25.
scares the crap out of me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
is
now
it
it's
25 felony.
something else. Now it's trank.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
yeah.
haven't seen it, hasn't hit Central Oregon yet.
It's in Portland though.
It is in
Yeah.
Portland.
It's like it turns into like flesh eating shit.
Yeah, it's not
And Narcan will not work.
in Narcan, yeah.
Oh, wow.
But what we're seeing in the cannabis side is we're hearing stuff coming back to us now where the Hondurans are mixing fentanyl and other drugs, cannabis being one of them.
See,
We haven't seen it.
We haven't seen
I've
it.
never seen that, and I don't know how the hell you would do that. Like you're powderizing it, putting it on the weed.
Well, they're buying it powder. Yeah, they're just sprinkling it in. The Honduran cartels are primarily doing it. They're mostly focused in the Oakland Bay area, and I think they're pushing it in the California region, but the DEA lab's starting to see a lot more poly drug mixes with fentanyl now.
Interesting.
And so, and we've talked about that a little bit in the past. We haven't seen it, but and you guys are familiar in the industry, but like we see it where we'll find marijuana nugs that are tumbled in Keef. And I'm hitting on a marijuana nug 60% THC.
Yeah, that's called moon rock.
Yeah. So it's like, so you'll see that, but it's not that hard to mix fentanyl powder in there with it.
Yeah, so
Right.
that's pretty wild.
That's scary.
Yeah.
We haven't specifically seen,
No.
but then again, we aren't testing for it either.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I wouldn't say that we're seeing it, like a lot of your moon rock, your tumbled weed, we're seeing that, we're testing it with our light labs. Light labs won't pick up, they're not gonna pick up the fentanyl.
Yeah.
So if we see something that's completely abnormal, then yeah, we might send it to the crime lab to have them do that. But we aren't testing for it.
You'd see it in overdoses though, even if you're not.
Yeah, and we
testing
haven't
for
heard
it, it
of
would
it
show
yet,
up
yeah.
somewhere,
But
right?
the other problem we have is most of the overdoses, they're not even testing. Well, and here's the thing too, they have an overdose and the medical examiner pulls blood on an overdose. Cannabis is on 100% of the overdose because they're all
So
poly
they're
drug
not gonna
users.
make the connection.
So that, and you
with-
can't because the blood doesn't show us what was the actual
Mhm.
problem in that patient.
Oh,
And now they've got to the point that there's so many of them that they stopped even blood testing. They're just like fentanyl, dead guy, easy answer. Because they can't, the volume is so high, they
Yeah.
can't.
And the only ones that they're really going forward on doing quantitative or blood testing like that are like your limb bias cases that they can try and prove. They're seeing that. We just came from Oregon Narcotics Association training this last week, and there's a lot of places over in Portland and even like the county that are doing a lot of limb bias follow-up stuff.
What's that?
Limb bias is essentially where you go after the drug dealer and charge them with the homicide.
Oh.
Limb bias was a
Yeah.
basketball player that died, they
Yeah.
went after his dealer.
Oh, wow.
And so it puts mandatory minimums, measure 11 crimes.
The Celtics.
But is it,
Yeah.
around Portland, they're handing out, equipment necessary to do drugs?
They were. So I was just actually telling Gary is that Portland has actually reeled back a lot of the safe use stuff. And that's one of the things they're like, okay, straws and tinfoil, we're cutting those out.
Yeah.
Test strips, we'll give you those. And test strips is a great example of a prevention tool that I think harbors danger because they're taking, they're giving false hope. It's kind of like, it's a spa testing strip. If you guys have ever used it, they're just
Oh,
like
yeah.
a dip test.
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
It's one of those, and they're saying to the people, hey, take this test strip, rub it on your pill, and it'll tell you if there's fentanyl in it.
That's bull. That's not gonna work.
Well, of course not.
But they're saying 6
But they're
out of
creating
10
this false
pills.
hope. My other point
Oh,
is
That's dangerous.
what pill out there does not have fentanyl in it
Totally. I
That you
mean,
buy in the street.
that you buy in the street?
Yeah.
totally.
So the argument is well, how much, really what they should be testing is how much fentanyl is in that pill,
Yeah.
not does it have fentanyl?
Right.
And so that's the logic that they're applying, but Portland has actually reeled a lot of that back because they're
Good.
realizing it's just not safe anymore.
What is the most recent number? The last training we went to last week was 6 in 10 pills have fatal amount.
6
Yeah.
6 in
One
10
pill.
pills. one
Fatal.
pill. 6 and 10 pills have a fatal dose for the average user. Now, a lot of your guys, they build an immunity to it, right, or a tolerance, where 6 out of 10 would kill anybody in this room.
Oh my goodness.
Rushing where that was.
For those that are in the industry, you guys know measurements, so as a paramedic, I would use fentanyl for long bone injuries, so I still do that now as a SWAT team paramedic. And on a normal adult, we're gonna use 2 to 3 micrograms of fentanyl on a patient with a long bone injury.
Yeah.
These tablets are coming out on the streets with 7 to 8 milligrams.
Whoa.
Yeah, they're hot, and it's the modern day version of Russian roulette now, so.
Yeah.
That's the problem. They're not scientifically made. They're made by cartels. They buy the powder from China. They buy a 5-gallon Home Depot bucket, a couple paint stirs, and some binder, usually acetaminophen, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, stir, 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 and they throw it into a pill maker, and then they just put them out on the street.
It's like
From
watching the
ingestion
sugar
to
when you're
death,
baking
how long
cookies.
does that take?
Minutes,
Yeah.
right?
Really?
What's the incentive to do that? I mean, if you're killing your
Customers.
clientele, like, I don't
Now
understand.
we're going international.
Yeah, drug cartels don't care. Drug cartels are all about volume and dollars.
Okay, but even if you're a capitalist, I just used a bunch of product.
There's 350 million people. You got a lot of customers.
It's always a new sucker.
Yeah, they're not worried about long-term customers or creating a customer base. They're worried about making a profit now. And what a lot of the new information is that the Hondurans and the Mexicans are racing to be the next fentanyl dealer. And the Hondurans have a pretty good grasp of the Pacific Northwest right now.
Where the majority of the fentanyl comes from China down there, then produced in the pill form or powder
comes
form
up.
comes up here.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Sarge, but there's people actually looking for that 6 out of 10 for themselves.
Yes,
They
yes.
personally want those.
Not to die, but because
Yeah.
they have such a high
Such high
tolerance.
tolerance.
Well, now they've converted to powder, like they've just skipped the pills, because the pills, they don't want to get the 4 light ones, they want straight powder now, so now we're seeing a lot more powder on the street.
Oh my God.
No wonder we have flesh eating.
Oh,
It's kind of like Darwinism.
Humans are good at self-destruction.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, can you imagine where we're gonna be in 10 years?
Yeah. All right.
Well,
Happy note.
7:30.
time for dinner.
We have-
Motion to adjourn?
Thank you very much. That was an interesting conversation. Matt, could you hear us pretty good?
Yeah, I could hear great. It was very
Oh, good.
interesting. Thank
These
you
little
guys.
drop down microphones work, I guess. Good.
Yeah, they're great.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hope to see you in
I
October.
forgot all about
All
Matt.
right, thanks, Matt.
Take care, everybody.
You're right. I'm done.
Cool, I adjourn.
I adjourned. We're adjourned.
We're adjourned. Yeah, I called it.